the next second quarter, when that comes back, all that money goes back to the state for so we are, yes, but there's no been.
Yeah.
And he's got his new. Oh, nice.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Appropriations Committee. My name is Rob Clements. I'm from Melbourne. I represent Legislative District 2. I serve as chair of this committee. We'll start off by having members do self-introductions, starting with my far right.
Steve Erdman, District 47.
District 34.
Anna Wishart, District 27.
Mike McDonald, LD5, South Omaha.
Robert Gober, District 19.
Marvin Dorn, District 30.
Christy Armendariz, District 18.
Assisting the committee today is Corey Beerbaum, our committee clerk, and to my left is fiscal analyst Michaela Finley. Our page today is Nick. If you're planning on testifying today, please fill out a green testifier sheet located on the side of the room and hand it to the page when you come up to testify. If you'll not be testifying, want to go on record as having a position on a bill being heard, there are yellow sign-in sheets on the side of the room where you may leave your name and other pertinent information. These sign-in sheets will become exhibits in the permanent record after today's hearing. To better facilitate today's hearing, I ask that you abide by the following procedures. Please silence your cell phones. When hearing bills, the order of testimony will be introducer, proponents, opponents, neutral, and closing. When you come to testify, please spell your first and last name for the record before you testify. Be concise. We request you limit to your testimony to 5 minutes or less. Written material may be distributed to the committee members as exhibits only while testimony is being offered. Hand them to the page for distribution when you come up to testify. If you have written testimony but do not have 12 copies, please raise your hand now so the page can make copies for you. With that, we will begin today's hearing with LB 942, Senator Dorn.
Good afternoon. My name is Senator Clemens, members of the Appropriation Committee. My name is Myron Dorn, M-Y-R-O-N-D-O-R-N. First off, I want to thank everybody for having this special committee hearing or committee meeting. Thank you very much for taking the time and being a part of this. Earlier this session, I introduced LB 942 to this committee to increase nursing facility provider rates, and unfortunately, that request did not make it into the budget. A few weeks ago, Senator Armendariz raised the idea to increase the provider rate tax, which then in turn draws down significant federal dollars. The governor's budget office worked on a solution to help address funding needs of the nursing homes by increasing the provider assessments paid by nursing facilities from the current $3.50 per resident day to $9 per day. Nebraska first established a nursing facility provider tax when it was passed by the legislature in 2011. AM 2895 is a result of the cooperation between the governor's budget people, the Healthcare Association who represent nursing facilities, and my office. In the simplest of terms, AM 2895 would allow nursing facilities providers to see the overall increase in their Medicaid rates beginning July 1st, 2024, but the increased $9 per day tax payment by the nursing facilities would not be due to the state until October 31st of 2024. In my conversations with Speaker Arts in the governor's office, the intent is to advance LB 942 as amended with AM 2895 to general file, with the amendment then becoming the bill. Due to that fact that we are in legislative day 42, I look for a bill that may accommodate this amendment. Currently, LB 130 is on final reading, and I've asked the speaker to hold this bill with the intention of pulling it back to select file so that AM 2895 could be amended into LB 130. As a reminder, LB 130 creates a separate and distinct budgetary program within the Department of Health and Human Services, identified as the Medicaid Nursing Facility Services Program. I think this amendment would be a good fit. There will be a representative from the Healthcare Association who can also answer any technical questions you may have. I ask for your support for this amendment. We did pass out a copy of the amendment to everybody, and also on the second page behind where my introductions were, there is this sheet details some of the fiscal stuff. This comes from the governor's fiscal people when we visited with them. The line in the green is what the effect would be this year, and then it moves on down to show the next year or whatever and stuff. So it would have a very, very positive impact this year and this is for just the skilled part of the nursing homes. It's not for the assisted living part. There are a few nursing homes in Nebraska that are assisted living. It would not be for their provider rates. It's just the skilled part because of the medical care that they are receiving from that. So some of the, I call it the technical questions of the budget process there, those numbers came from the governor's fiscal staff.
All right. Is that your opening on the amendment?
Well, this was kind of the opening on the
That's the
amendment.
description
This
of
is
the
opening on
amendment?
2895, yes.
All right.
Mhm.
And are you open to questions from the committee? Committee have questions? I want to just point out that fiscal office is saying LB 130 originally created a new budget program, but it doesn't anymore. Can somebody speak to that? All right, we'll let the Healthcare Association comment on that. I'm being told it codifies the procedure of earmarking the portion in Medicaid. So we'll get some reaction to that from the testifier. Seeing no further questions, Senator Dover.
I was just looking at your the spreadsheet here, and then on the top it says, across the house, it's tax amount 7, 8, 9. So I'm guessing that's just looking at different amounts per day. That's days underneath that, but then it has, the next to the right is 5.5% estimate, 3% estimate, 4% estimate. So can you just tell me what the different columns? Obviously, it's like they settled on $9 per day. And why do they settle on $9 per day?
This is what he will explain to me. That is, if you look at that, that's the $9 per day. And Senator Armendariz, you help out here if I'm explaining this wrong. That is the level that they would start out at this first year. And that is the amount then that as you go on down for the nursing facilities, not nursing, the nursing home facilities for the skilled part, that would be an influx then of 23.8 million into all of those skilled nursing homes or whatever. The way I had it explained to me, and I don't know if I'm wrong, you help me out. The second year, this is the column right next to it. That's what they would be using the second year. And is that right? Or Jaylene will go into more detail.
I can she comes up.
Any other questions? Seeing none, the first proponent is welcome, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman Clements and members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Jaylene Carpenter, J-A-L-E-N-E-C-A-R-P-E-N-T-E-R. I'm the President and CEO of Nebraska Healthcare Association. I'm here today on behalf of our 184 nonprofit and proprietary skilled nursing facility members in support of AM 2895. The bill is very simple. It would replace the language from 942 with an increase in our nursing facility provider tax. Just for a little reference, under federal regulation, a state may collect an assessment from certain type of healthcare providers, such as nursing homes. According to the National Council for State Legislators, 45 states have a nursing facility provider tax. In Nebraska, the state collects the tax on a quarterly basis. These dollars are then added to the legislation, the amount appropriated from the legislature, and then federal law considers this a state payment to Medicaid providers, which qualifies for that federal match, which is currently 58%. Nebraska, as mentioned, established this in 2011 as a $3.50 per day resident tax, with a few exceptions. The proposal would change that $3.50 to $9 a day. This would create approximately $28 million that is paid by Nebraska nursing facilities that would then qualify for approximately $38 million in federal matching funds. It would be used to reimburse nursing facilities in proportion to their facilities' Medicaid days. I want to be clear, one of the federal regulations for a provider tax is that it cannot make all providers whole. They have to have winners and losers. So depending on the population a facility serves, there will be a small number of providers who pay into the tax that may not receive that full amount back, while others who serve a larger portion of Medicaid residents will benefit more. AM 2895 is a really important step and is going to allow our nursing facilities the opportunity to work together with the administration and with the legislature to ensure we develop a broad solution to this very complex situation our nursing facilities are currently in. I want to be clear, increasing the provider tax is a huge help in an increase overall, but it does not cover the current deficit in the cost of care. And then I cannot promise that it would prevent further closures because there are facilities already very much so on the brink right now. That being said, I want to make sure and articulate how incredibly gracious and supportive we are in ensuring this will help move the needle forward and take that really important step. I want to thank Senator Dorn for introducing the amendment, but also Senator Armendariz for continuing to fight for solutions to find a path forward. I can answer questions that you might have, or if you want me to address the questions you already had.
We'll open up for questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator Dover.
Yeah, I actually kind of figured out part of this thing because it seems as though for some reason they have seven days, $8, $7, $8, $9 a day, but then they jump over and they start showing what's
Percentage.
is actually the percentage of, as a percentage of revenue.
Correct.
And they're putting it at the bottom and they're throwing it back on top as a header of the column. So then my question would be then, so it's $9 a day, but then I'm guessing this is the second year and it goes to $31.03 a day?
So
Or what
what,
is that?
in conversations with the governor's office, so there is a cap on how much you can leverage the provider assessment. The cap is generally considered at about 6% of annual revenues. So that's why they put those numbers out there of if we were to quote max out our provider assessment, what would that bring in? Our conversations were very clear. Let's take this conservative step. Let's evaluate and ensure that our current provider tax, how it is currently constructed, is most beneficial in trying to achieve our goal of ensuring we have access to care. So it is projection of what we could potentially leverage moving forward.
You're saying the $9 is the current,
The $9 is what the amendment would do.
okay, but you could go as high as 3103?
That would max us out, correct?
Okay. So you don't have what would be the income for the second year after you're actually receiving those funds?
Correct. That currently with the amendment, only change we're making is moving from that $3.50 to $9, with the understanding that we'll work in the interim to determine what that next step might be.
And my last question is there any, so you said $9 a day, is there any reason you do that versus a percentage of expenses or cost or?
One of the conversations of wanting to work in the interim, because our current statute is the per day, which as we've seen that has eroded as a percentage over time. So in the interim, we will be evaluating, should we look at a percent of revenue or should we keep it constructed as it is, as a per day, to where we come back to the legislature to ask for that increase.
All right, thank you.
Senator Armendariz.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So you pay the tax into the state. It gets matched at 58% of what you pay in by the federal government.
Yep.
And then does the state also distribute those back to the organizations as well?
Yes.
And at what rate? How much do they keep in the state and how much are they giving you, turning around and giving you right back?
So currently, they take a very nominal fee for the administrative costs. Last time I verified, I believe it was approximately $150,000. So the majority of the money that has come down from the federal government goes back to facilities.
As well as the assessment you paid
As
in?
well as the assessment that you paid in, yes.
Okay, that was what I wanted you to clarify on the mic, that although you are paying this assessment tax, they're going to turn it back over to you once you capture the federal funds, and then you get to keep pretty much both.
Correct. There are those outlier facilities
Gotcha.
that potentially will have paid in the full amount of tax and will not recover what they paid in.
And that is because they don't serve a Medicaid population
Or a very
much of
small
one.
Medicaid population.
Okay.
yes.
Correct, that's my understanding. Thank you for clarifying.
Other questions? Senator Dover?
My last question is, so the $150,000 per year, that basically makes this not at no cost to the state because we're
Correct.
covering the administrative costs.
Yes, and they've been administering it since 2011. There's really no change by increasing the amount of the assessment that would cause any additional cost.
Thank you.
The green column, is that fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25? The $9 would apply this fiscal year already?
It would apply, the rates would be effective July of 24, and they would start paying in their portion in October of 24, yes.
Okay, so it's only the next fiscal year, not this one. All right. And and it would continue into future years,
We could
but
look
you're
at it.
planning to look into the percentage.
Yes,
But we'd have to change that
correct.
$9 to some different formula. Then I'm seeing Fed, the line says Fed plus up. Is that the Fed map? That's the 38,251,000. Is that what you mentioned?
Right, that's the federal match that would then come
That's the
through.
38, but then with the added tax taken out, you're ended up with 23.7 million.
So the overall impact when you take out what providers pay in, so if you look at just the net impact, that's that close to $24 million.
All right. That's what that's why I assumed. And let's see, so any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Are there additional proponents? Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman Clements, members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is John Meals, Johnmeals, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Department of Health and Human Services. I'm here to testify in support of AM 2895, which will increase the quality assurance assessment, or the QAA as I'll reference, paid by nursing facilities from $3.50 to $9 for each resident day. Departments work with both Governor's Office and the Nebraska Healthcare Association on increasing the QAA as an avenue to increase federal financial participation to match revenue from the QAA to be paid out to providers in their rates. This increase in the QAA to $9 per day would provide an effective increase of about 5% in total funds, net of the amount paid by providers through the assessment, without increasing the amount appropriated in general funds. The department will continue to work with the Governor's Office and the Healthcare Association to discuss future increases in a manner that works for both the association and the state of Nebraska. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Additional proponents? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Clemens and members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Andy Hale, ANDYHALE, and I am Vice President Advocacy for the Nebraska Hospital Association, and I'm here to support AM 2895. The NHA has 11 members that operate a hospital and a nursing home. Many rural hospitals have stepped away from their nursing homes to preserve access to hospital care in their communities. If you look at the financial headwinds nursing homes have faced, it's easy to see why these hospitals felt they had to abandon these facilities. Increases in rates have been appreciated, but they have not caught up with costs. When a nursing facility closes its doors, hospital patients that need specialized care found in nursing facilities may be forced to have extended stay at our hospitals, therefore depriving that patient with the appropriate level of care that they may require. With an aging population where there are no nearby long-term facilities, hospitals have been housing individuals which they're unable to provide that appropriate quality of care. Additionally, there can be a ripple effect and additional strain on the rural communities when a nursing home closes. Employees lose jobs, those families have to relocate, and that is impacted on the tax base in that community. All small communities suffer when they have to close. We want to thank Senator Dorn and his staff and this committee for their support over the years for all of our facilities on looking at these reimbursement rates, increasing them when appropriate, and looking at different funding streams. So with that, I ask that you support AM 2895.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Are there other proponents? I would request Ms. Carpenter to come up to discuss the one question about whether we had a statutory change in how the budget program, is it changed or into an ever program, or how is it?
No, McKay, I believe that fiscal articulated it correctly. We worked with the department, doesn't create its own program. We worked with language. It does codify the process of how the nursing facility provider rates are funded and start, yes.
They will be reported separately, is that? We'll be able to track them, they'll be earmarked. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, were there any other questions? Excuse me. Thank you for answering that question. Any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Seeing none. Any neutral testimony? Seeing none. Senator Dorn, you may close.
We'll just make a quick comment. I thank Jaylene very much for coming up and clarifying the financial part of this very much. And again, I will reiterate, thank this committee very much for taking the time to work through this process. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing on, oops, excuse me, we have some online comments. We have 8 proponent position comments, no opponents and no neutral. That concludes the hearing on AM 2895 and LB 942. Thank you very much. And when the room is clear, we need to do an exec session.